¿Qué más, panas? Estamos aquí en el segundo día de nuestra estadía aquí en Parque. Estamos en las Suites Tequendama y nos acabamos de encontrar con Steve Digiorgio, que tuvo la amabilidad de aceptar esta pequeña entrevista. Ustedes saben la leyenda que es Steve y pues vamos a hablar un poquito de él en este corto periodo porque no queremos interrumpir su rutina. So Steve, welcome
Sin
to...
problema, mucho
Sin
gusto.
problema, mucho gusto. I was saying, you know, you're such a legend as a bass player and as someone that played a key role in the metal community in the world. How is it like to be here back in Latin America at Parque? What are your expectations of the festival this year?
Well, I've never played the Rock al Parque show, so I heard it's fucking huge. It's massive. So everyone in the band, it's their first time for Testament, and we're looking forward to it. We've played Colombia many times, played Bogota specifically many times, so we know that it gets pretty crazy here. So I could imagine this is going to be times 1,000. And one side note is me and my friend went to an Iron Maiden concert. Apparently it was in the same location.
Parque Simón Bolívar.
Yeah. And it turned out that Iron Maiden made a movie about playing this Flight 66, playing certain cities,
okay.
and that was the show we were at.
Show.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We were friends with the sound engineer. When Iron Maiden had time off, Testament would borrow him to do our sound.
Oh, okay.
So we had a nice connection to get in the show, and so I know the place. It's a big, huge park.
Exactly. It's a huge park.
It holds a lot of people, right?
It holds a lot of people. As I mentioned in the table, I played in 2001 with my band.
Yeah.
It was 80,000 people.
Yeah.
We played
25 years ago. Can you imagine now, right?
Exactly. So, and it's great because like the festival keeps growing and growing and growing and become like culture here in Bogota, here in Latin America. It's called the biggest festival en Latinoamérica,
wow.
el festival más grande de Latinoamérica, Rock al Parque. So now let's talk about a little bit about Steve and the contributions. Like we were talking about, you know, your contribution on the Human record with Dead. I know there's a long history how you met Chuck Schuldiner, but how do you feel to be part of such an iconic record and also be part of the life of such an iconic artist as was Chuck Schuldiner?
Yeah, well, that kind of feeling came later in life because in the day, I had no idea. It was just, we were, you know, especially when I recorded Human, me and Chuck were 23 years old, you know, and we had no idea
where this is going, right? How big
we didn't know the impact. We were just doing the normal procedure, you know, we were in a band, paying our dues, fighting to get recognized, and Chuck had a vision to, you know, always stay off the main path. You know, when he was part of the original death metal birth, but just a few years later, he's introducing new elements and inviting different musicians to expand the style and the sound of his band. So we were aware that we were doing something a little bit different than normal, but all the weight of how iconic it is and how legendary that didn't hit until
that wasn't part
way
of the plan.
After Chuck was dead. No,
that wasn't part of the vision.
No, we were just being in another one of the bands, you know.
Do you remember the first time you met with Chuck? I think I read something, but I would like you to share.
Yeah, we were teenagers. He left Florida to get a new lineup, and he found himself in a town very close to where I lived, and we had our band Sadus.
Okay, Sadus. Okay.
Yeah, and we had a demo tape with our guitar player's phone number on the label, you know, to book shows and stuff like this. And Chuck just called the number and said, "Hey, I love your demo. I'm in a band called Death. We live close to each other. Why don't we just hang out? You know, come watch our band." And okay, you know, we were about 17, 18 years old. Wow. We're like, sure, let's go see this band called Death. You know, the name sounded too generic, so we didn't take it serious. But when we went and watched them play, it was two guys. It was just Chuck and then Chris Reifert, the original drummer of Scream Bloody Gore. Two guys in a bedroom. He had a guitar amp that he put the vocals in, and he had a separate guitar amp that he played in, Chris on drums. And these two guys sounded like a 5-piece band. It was huge, and they were well rehearsed, and they sounded fucking amazing. And so instantly we became fans, and he was, as he admitted, already a fan of our band. So we just, as 17, 18-year-old, you just hang out, just go to the park at night and drink beers and talk, and we made a lot of music together, and that's basically it.
It's key of what you're pointing out, like back in the day, you were doing it just because you want to play music, have a good time, meeting these great artists, and there's this chemistry that the last thing you're thinking is, like, oh, we're going to be big, or probably you are, but you have no idea where this is going, and those records, those recordings.
No, that kind of music had really small fan base, because we were surrounded by, like Def Leppard and Motley Crue and Dawkins and Cinderella, and the kind of music that was headed for MTV, the kind of music that they were playing on FM radio, and we weren't playing anything like that. So we had like this little rebellion club. We were in the early stages of the underground. We looked up to bands like Merciful Fate, Accept, Slayer. The list goes on and on, but that type of band, we were looking up to them. Possessed was very close to us locally, and they played every couple weekends, and we'd go watch Possessed, and this kind of stuff appealed to us, but the fan base was very small, so we had not even a clue where the music was going to go, 30 years later.
30 years later, here we are, in Parque, and that's great. Let's go back, really back in the day. How did you start playing bass? Why bass?
I probably started playing the instrument a little bit different than normal metal musicians. I'm a little bit on the weird side. I went through the music program at school since I was a little kid. And I jumped around and played different instruments, because what I really wanted to play was cello. But all the instruments were already checked out, and there was no room, so I played bass clarinet, and I played tuba, and I played bass trombone, and it seemed like every time I changed instrument, it was always the low version of that family. And so finally a spot opened up in the orchestra class, and it wasn't for cello, but it was for upright bass, for the double bass. So once I played that, I realized that I could transfer that knowledge to an electric bass and play all the favorite songs that I like to listen to, like Black Sabbath and Rush and Iron Maiden and stuff like that. It was very similar, and so I just kind of came in that way. But
look, you're telling me the story, and I can imagine those things. I put in those pictures on my head as I'm listening to you, because you're not only a metal bass player, you're like a really, like, your musicality is super high, and now you're telling me where your background's coming when you say you wanted to play cello. It kind of explains, the way you play.
Well, my mom had a big, like most of us, our parents influence what we do in life, and my mom was really addicted to music. Every day when we were waking up, getting ready for school, music would be blaring in the house, and she grew up in the 60s and 50s and 60s, but she was really into this jazz fusion and stuff like that. So
everything.
So my mind is learning this. I listen to, the door was always wide open. We listened to all styles, but I was kind of, honed in on this jazz fusion stuff, which takes, some thought to decipher through this music.
You had this big foundation.
It was just part of life. It wasn't like a big musical family where everybody played instruments, but it was just having, going on long car rides. We would just listen to music in the car, and you're sitting there staring out the window at the trees going by, and music is playing what will become the soundtrack of your youth.
Exactly.
And that's how I just came up that way. So
you had a very robust and rich foundation, because we grew up with your parents listening to certain type of music.
But all this fundamental training and stuff happened when I was very young. Once I was a teenager, I think
when metal came to your life?
A little bit later than other people, because I'm involved in all this other different kind of stuff. I would go to the symphony orchestra concerts. I really like big symphony orchestras, because I couldn't believe how many people were playing in the same beat. There's a huge group of people, and they're all playing in time. That always amazed me.
That explains everything, man, as far as like the type of musician you are. Now, you have like a long career, and I don't want to take too much of your time, but one of the latest, obviously, you joined Testament, and you know, fans were really happy about that, and because what you bring to the table, not as an established musician and iconic musician, I would say, for the you know, the work you've done in the past,
Right.
but you know, it's a big piece on the band right now, like Steve Digiorgio in the Testament. How did that happen? You guys are friends, they approach you?
Well, we were in the same scene, you know, in the same Bay Area, and our bands crisscrossed once in a while, but I wouldn't say that we were old friends.
Okay.
I was working on James Murphy,
Yeah.
the guitar. He was in
Yes.
Testament a couple times. I was working on his solo album, and James was already coming back for his second time in Testament to do the Gathering album in '98. And because I was in proximity, ERIC Peterson just asked me, you know, he says, hey, we need a bass player. And, you know, his cousin Derek, who played actually on Demonic and helped him start the band, he referred my name. And just, he first wanted to see if I was interested in the band, because I guess they did their research and knew who I was. But we went in his pickup truck and he put a cassette on, and I almost thought he was fucking with me because it sounded like a Slayer rehearsal.
Okay.
But it turned out it was Eric and what would be the surprise drummer. You know, I said, man, I mean, once we played a couple songs, he goes, what do you think of our new stuff? And I said, man, I'm gonna say this in a 100% compliment, okay? But don't take it wrong. I say, I like it a lot. It sounds like Slayer.
Okay.
In a good way, though,
good
you know,
way,
because
exactly.
Slayer was life, you know, and so to me that was, and he just kind of smiled a little and he goes, well, I wasn't going to tell you right away, but that's Slayer's drummer. Dave Lombardo's playing on our new album.
Wow.
And so I said, well, if your new songs sound like this, and this is the lineup with James Murphy and Dave Lombardo, I said, I'll think about it. Okay, I'm done thinking. Let's do it.
That's awesome.
I needed 1 second to tell them, yes, I'm going to be in the band. And they accepted me very well. I stayed on longer than James and Dave, and now I'm in like 17, almost 18 years total with the band, and feels like family. We're very close.
That's
know?
awesome. Now, how long does it take you to, like, get into, let's see, a band that, hey, Steve, you know, we're going on tour and we need your help, this and that. And obviously, you're a musician, so okay, you know, whatever they pay. How long does it take you to learn a full set list?
Oh, well, it's different every time. I prefer as much time as possible, but there's been situations where I've had to learn stuff like in 2 days, 1 to 2 days, and it drives me crazy, but I can crash course. But obviously when I have a full week to practice everything, I start off a lot better, yeah.
With the internet, with social media, you know, like in the 80s, 90s, you had to wait for a magazine to come out to find something.
Every 3 months, right?
Exactly. And there's, oh, look, see. But now it's like less than 24 hours.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
There's a story, this and that. When the news came that you recorded the Megadeth record,
Right.
the bass lines again, how long did it take you to get into that record? To be ready for that record?
Well,
I mean,
there was no time at all. There was no prep time. When Dave talked me into coming out and recording the album, he had sent me a folder with some of the songs to listen to, but I was on a plane in just a few days. So I went to the studio and basically never heard the songs and definitely never tried to play them. So we just went slowly.
Do you read music?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you.
No, they didn't print it out for me. We just went really slow. Well, obviously I had to learn the songs, so that took time. But Dave didn't really want to go fast. He wanted to go nice and slow, and make sure everything was totally perfect. You know. So the pace of the recording was just okay for learning on the spot because everything was going very slow, very meticulous. So. Right. Yeah, when I first got there, I felt the pressure. I was like, how many songs? Like 11 or 12, and I don't play one note of it before I get there, you know. And it's like, fuck,
that's why I'm asking you this question because you know I'm sure even with your track record, your experience, I'm sure it's like what, like 2 days, like what?
No days.
Yeah, okay.
But we had, I was there like 13 days or something, and we would have breakfast and work all day, and then after dinner, we'd cut. But during that full day, I mean, we would just go slow and make sure everything was perfect, and I learned it. And
now let me ask you a question regarding the instrument. I saw, your Ibanez, Steve Digiorgio signature. How long you been with Ibanez?
I started endorsing the BTB model in middle of 2016.
2016. Okay,
Yeah,
so
and then they
years.
just released the signature model actually 1 year ago today.
Yeah. Congratulations. And today it's your birthday. Happy birthday, man. And
Gracias.
it's such a
It's the
iconic.
signature bass model birthday as well as my birthday. We share the birthday, me and my
that's
bass.
you're on your base. You're birthday buddies now.
Yes.
And it's
I've
super-
had a lot more than the bass though.
Yeah, of course. So look, I really appreciate your time, and like I said, you wanted to go and do your thing.
Yeah.
What would you say to the Latin America fans? There's a lot of bands that come from the U.S. to South America, and they always are doing this comparison, like, oh, the Latin American crowd they are more on fire. What are your thoughts? Your audience around the world the same, or do you see the energy is different in different places?
Well, of course the energy is different. That's obvious to any, not only the bands but the people that experience it. It's obvious that wherever you play, there's different reaction based on the culture and the style and everything. But maybe some people favor the crazy Latino America vibe. Maybe some people prefer this part of the world or that part of the world. But what I notice, what's constant around the world, is our concerts are full. People are coming and they're enjoying the music, and they're allowed to enjoy it any way they want. Because when I see faces that go all the way to the back,
Right.
I know they're there and they're there for us.
That's
And,
awesome.
that's all that matters.
Look, this is a small word. You just mentioned Testament, and I'm seeing the T-shirts, the logos. The guy that designed this is the guy that designed the Testament logos, and he's from Ecuador too. Triple says design.
Yeah, I think they work on some T-shirts.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
original Testament
Oh, of
logo
course.
and stuff comes from Eric Peterson.
Exactly, yeah.
But I think I know what you mean.
Over the years.
Some of the new stuff.
The new stuff and this.
Yeah.
And it's great, You mentioned another word, proximity. To me, I've seen you in concert. I've seen you live many times. I see you at the NAMM. But to me, it's the first time that I actually, have this proximity with Steve Digiorgio, and I really appreciate that you're sharing this time with me, because this goes to my audience. This goes to the guys that grew up, listening to Dead and all that stuff. So, good luck. You're gonna have a blast here in Bogota.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast.
Right on.
Go enjoy with your friends.
Yeah, I gotta.
Kill it.
Get back to
at
live,
the
man.
concert. I hope to
Sure.
see you at the park.
Yeah.
And Steve, thank you very much.
Yeah, nice talking with you, man.
Muchas gracias.
My pleasure.
And look,
Mucho gusto.